What does Winnipeg mean to you? And this is the question that Jennifer Still, Winnipeg's poet laureate, is asking city residents in her efforts to codify those meanings into poetry. The Story of Winnipeg is a citywide collaborative poem that anyone can add their voice to. Jennifer Still joins us in the Classic 107 studios to tell us more about this project. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Nolan.
So we've got all of the accoutrement for A Story of Winnipeg here on our desk. You can check it out on our YouTube channel or at our website and app a little bit later on if you want to check this out. But maybe to set the stage, when you took this role as poet laureate back in the spring, at what point did this idea, this collaborative poem, come to you?
You know, it's not like an instant moment, but what it is, it's this deeply thinking about how I can connect with Winnipeg and how I can encourage people to engage with poetry in this wide and gentle and open and playful way. You know, not in a pressured way, but and also in a meaningful way. So I think, like, you know, really looking back to it, I think it's my my impulse to write with longhand and send messages by mail. I actually think that's where it started. It's like, how can I get Winnipeg to share something with me? And I tried to orient myself within the city, and doing that, I was looking at archival materials of the city. I was looking at old maps and old books on the city of Winnipeg when it was still like really just developing. And and this old streetcar map caught my eye, and it's from 1952, and it's highlighted in red arteries, and it's very connected. It's very webbed, and it feels very like there's a center to it when you look at it. And I loved it as an image. And then I was reading this old book called Winnipeg, The Gateway to the Golden West, and it has this dense text at the front. It's mostly pictures, but it's probably from 1911, and it has this text that talks all about Winnipeg as a by its development. So by its industrial developments, the roads, the railroads, the sidewalks, 425 miles of sidewalks, a single free library, the buildings, there's a lot of numbers, and it kind of was interesting to me, like, what if that's what was valued in 1911? What is valued now? Do we value our roads in the same way? How do we see 425 miles of sidewalks? Is that even important to us? So I broke open that text in the way that I do, and I began to play with it. And I realized that if you open a text and you leave blanks for new words to come in, people will insert their thoughts.
Right. And they're going to have probably a wide range of thoughts, even thinking about that sort of idea, the gateway to the Golden West, as it were. It's very charming as an image. It's very, it's got this real sort of Winnipeg vintage that we love to interact with in this city. But at the same time, there's going to be people that read that and go, well, that's got like some maybe colonial overtones that I don't necessarily resonate with either.
Yes.
So these are, what kinds of responses then, as you are looking at these maps, as you're looking at these old streetcar renderings, as you're reading these descriptions, as you're corresponding with the past, what sorts of avenues were you imagining, or are you imagining, that this kind of project can open up as you explore those, as you open up those cracks, as you say?
Yes, it's so exciting, because I really didn't have expectation. I just wanted people to engage, you know?
Yeah.
And they are. And this is that alone is exciting. But the uniqueness and the personal touch they're putting on it is blowing my mind. I guess there's this real like affinity for Winnipeg as a place of home, a place of family, of friends. There's also these overlapping images of Winnipeg as a place with many lost mittens, with miles of power lines with sneakers hanging from them. And so there's these shared images, but there's also concern.
Sure.
There's what I'm really excited about is this almost responsibility I'm feeling that Winnipeggers feel towards the north. Like, not like we're this city alone, isolated down here at the south part, like a gateway to the west. We're actually, in a way, a gateway to the north, or we're part of the north. And people are concerned with the Hudson Bay and polar bears and the futility of infrastructure, not celebrating it, but seeing it as more closer to dust than to like concrete, stability. So these are the exciting things that are happening. And as these books are maybe delivered to me or, shared with me in some way, there's ideas that are coming to mind in ways that they can be shared with the wider city.
As the poet laureate, how do you see poetry maybe writ large as a gateway for new perspectives? In other words, how do you see the medium of poetry helping to engage with the city around us in a way that photography or prose or any sort of other medium might not be able to capture this city's goldenness in so many different ways?
I think it comes from, first of all, there's like a real intimacy and personal approach. This is a person writing this, and this is, and it speaks to a collective we. So it's these individuals, and it becomes a we. And some people are like the Story of Winnipeg. It says by. There's an opportunity to write your name or an alias or anything you want. And one person wrote us, by us. So I feel like it's writing to a we, but from a very particular perspective. So I think that can be a power. What else? I think this sending words away, writing something down. So much now is in perpetuity that we, like a text message, it's in a cloud, it's in a database, it's in a Dropbox. What if you write a physical word and send it away? The consideration that goes into that, the trust, the sharing, the generosity. You're actually giving your words to someone, and you're trusting they will go somewhere. So I think the whole engagement of it is, I think it comes down to it being intimate and private, but shared. And what is that? Like, that's connection, right? That's vulnerability and strength all at once.
That's quite a tension or a dialectic to hold as we think about a shared, like a collective intimacy.
Yes.
Even at the same time.
Yes.
Wow.
It comes down to love.
It's right.
It comes down to love.
So how have you seen that love shared through poetry here in Winnipeg over the course of your poetry career that maybe you're thinking that this project then adds to that Winnipeg love poetry canon?
Oh boy. I was reading one of these this morning. I tried to bring some, I tried to bring an example. The streets of the city are generally survivable. All roads amount to epic journeys. The city contains not enough vitamin D. That's a huge question, Nolan. You asked the best questions. And I think the love is in participating, arriving, saying, I have a voice. I'm going to share it with you. I think that's the love. I think. And I will add to it, noticing, attention. Let's give some attention to our city. This little book that I'm sharing with Winnipeg is, there's opportunity to write what you love. There's also opportunity to write what you're not comfortable with anymore. But you're noticing it all, and noticing is love, actually.
There's attention as a part of the intention of that physical media that you were talking about before, that being such an intimate and personal act that is vulnerable you are sharing. And part of that is not turning our eyes away from any aspect of this city that we need to be captured in this poetry. So I'm sure there are people listening going, I need to participate in this. So let's get to some brass tacks here, shall we? How can Winnipeggers participate in this Story of Winnipeg project? Okay.
Well, every Winnipeg Public Library branch has copies of this mini book, which is just a single 8.5 by 11 page folded.
Yes.
In a way that it can become a book. Anyway, all the Winnipeg Public Libraries have copies, and at the library, there's a small paper mailbox marked Winnipeg where you can share the book after you fill it out if you like. You can keep it for yourself. I've had high school teachers write to me saying they want all their classmates to engage. So I'm probably going to do some high school visits and bring the Story of Winnipeg there. Once after December 1st, once the books are hopefully all filled out,
yes,
I will be reading all of them. It's going to be the gift to me, and I'm reading them all, and I'm going to be listening for what they want to become, what Winnipeggers are saying together.
So then how then do all of these poetic reflections then get sewn together into this poetic tapestry, this story then of Winnipeg?
Wow, you're making it. You just made it. You just showed me like a huge page that's hanging with taking up some space in the city.
Yeah, right.
I think I have ideas about what that might look like, but I really want to listen to the Winnipeggers themselves and the poets themselves. But I do see a physical installation, and I do also see a spoken performance. So those are the two things I want to play with.
Okay, so then how, as you've been interacting with all of these poems so far, I'm sure you're not waiting to read them until this project is the submissions are wrapped up at the beginning of December, but I'm sure you're already, as you've demonstrated, reading through some of these.
Yeah.
How do these poetic reflections of the city maybe change your own poetic practice as you've been engaging with writing about your city for, so much of your career, and quite literally using so many physical elements of this city to imbibe your poetry with?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because it really is affecting me. I want to know more about where I'm from, and I want to represent it as authentically as I can. Now that's obviously something I've tried to do my whole life, but I'm reflecting on my own poetic path and saying it's always been about origin for me. Like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Whether it's the bloodline of my ancestry, whether it's the tracks where I grew up, where they lead to, just, I think, connecting and locating myself.
Wow. So then within that, I'm sure as well there are people listening and going, where do I start with the inspiration of the city around me? Where do I start looking? And how do I take that impulse and then turn it into something that can be a part of the story of Winnipeg? What would your advice be to that person about where to start?
The first thing I would say is next weekend, please come to the Winnipeg Poetry Tours, which is a project I've created with 3 different poets that are going to be reading from different locations in the city. It's in celebration of Brick Books, which is a poetry publisher in Canada. It's their 50th anniversary, and all 3 of us poets have been published by Brick. But most importantly, it's a Winnipeg Poetry Tour is not your usual tour of the city. It's talking about the imaginative elements that have fed into the practices of poets. So for me, I'm going to be giving a tour at Girdwood Crescent in East Kildonan, and I'm going to be engaging people to think about space with a sidewalk chalk poem we're going to write together on the sidewalk, where I feel like all my creativity comes from, and we're just gonna, as poets, we're just gonna talk about how we engage with the space. Exactly your question, and how it's informed and continues to inform our poetic practice.
Okay, well, maybe you should be the one behind this microphone instead, because you're such a natural. That was such a natural segue into this Winnipeg Poetry Tours, which I was going to ask even a little bit more about. If people are looking to take part in the poetry tours, what is the best way for them to maybe reserve a space or make sure that they don't miss out on this wonderful opportunity?
Thank you. It's open to all. It's free, no registration. Plume Winnipeg website has all of the information, and Maurice Muro and Angeline Schellenberg and myself are giving 3 separate tours: Portage-Main, St. Vital Duck Pond, and Girdwood Crescent. So hopefully, if you go to the Plume Winnipeg website, you will find the information.
We will link all that information at our own website this morning, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app, as well as the information to make sure that you are able to submit for the Story of Winnipeg Poetry Project. Jennifer Still, it's always such a breath of fresh air to have you here in our studios talking about the amazing things you're doing as a poet laureate. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Nolan.